like this. Perfect. Thank you. Welcome to the special meeting, it's Tuesday, May 26, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. I'd like to make a couple of statements before we get started. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I know it's a little bit early, 5:30 in the afternoon, but one of the things that we have to do today is get this done. We have to get it done today. There are specifications that we were a little, I don't want to say confused on, we're unsure of as far as timing. If we had our meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, it wouldn't have been enough time to get it in, to get it approved, to get it out for referendum. Everything is so time constricted with these processes that you really have to be careful of how you do it and what you get done and the timing that you get it done in. So we are required, before we leave here today, to have a budget approved and move forward so that it can be distributed, parts unknown, and put out for referendum. A couple other things I'd like to mention. First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Finance for taking the time to make some difficult decisions. I wish, as many as the other board members here, wish those decisions were different, but they are what they are, and we are going to do our best to provide an educational system that still thrives while meeting the standards set by the Board of Finance. We are also, just like every other board in this town, are a board of volunteers. We are administrators, we are teachers, we are lawyers, we're retired law enforcement, we are business people. So we have a wide range of interests and a wide range of things that we do in our lives outside of this, and we all come together for the interest of the town and the interest of the students to do the best we can. Now, everyone may not agree with what we do or how we do it, but one thing you cannot argue with is the success that the school system has had over the last several years. Whether it was something as simple as having a student become governor of the day, opening up a daycare, which has been incredibly successful, state championships, sometimes repeat state champions, whether it was sports, music, acting, problem solvers. I mean, the list goes on and on. There are 169 municipalities in the state of Connecticut. And if you try to figure out, it's a little difficult to figure out how many schools because of the way the schools are broken down, but there are hundreds and hundreds of schools in the state of Connecticut. North Haven had 3 schools of distinction. I don't know anybody else that did. North Haven had a blue ribbon school. There's only 4? How many in the state? 5? Okay, 5 in the state. 1 landed here. Why did it land here? By accident? No. Because blue ribbon schools are not determined on a year-to-year basis. Blue ribbon schools are determined over years of continued excellence. And without that continued excellence, you're off the list. We stayed on that list and we provided. Our average price per student to educate is one of the lowest around. It's like 4th lowest in our DERG, and if you take the 18 surrounding cities, we're right there as far as bottom of the pile. And yet we still have all this success. Our grade scores have been, our mandatory test scoring is higher than it's been in 6 years. Again, that does not happen by mistake. So, people can complain. They have the right to complain about the size of the school, how we pay for certain things, what we choose to have and not have. What you cannot ever complain about is the success rate that we've had and that we continue to have with the school. We have some other grade scores that are coming up that we expect to have. We expect to show quite an increase in that also. So, I would like to thank all the teachers, all the administrators, all the people that are involved with getting our kids ready, getting the schools ready, presenting it in a way that is the envy of most DERGs in the state. And I can't say enough how much we appreciate you. There are very, very, very difficult and upsetting decisions to be made. You don't get to $1.7 million in cuts without hurting feelings or being upset yourself by having to do those cuts. None of us here want to be here to do that. That's not. We didn't all sign up saying, "Man, I can't wait to come in here one day and drop $1.7 million off the budget." That is not what we ever intended to do. Again, townspeople have spoken, and they say that they want a change in the way money is spent. Now, that's fine. I'm not so sure that they meant they want $1.7 million from the BOE and $1 million from the town. I think that could have been much different. I've spoken to Mr. Fried about it. I've spoken to anybody who would listen to me about it. That doesn't seem to be the way the Board of Finance wanted to go, or at least most of them wanted to go. I am not one to fall down the rabbit hole of Facebook and any other conversation. I try not to. People are entitled to their opinions. It's easy for me to say, "Oh, no, that's not exactly correct." Because we're in it. We're in the meat of it, and a lot of people aren't. So when your state rep says, "Hey, Ron, you didn't get a lot of funding this year because Hartford says you're top heavy," and I say to him, "Well, Dave, who said that, and where are we top heavy? Please let me know so I can address the person that said that." Well, that's what they're saying. And that's not really an answer. And the problem with that is, as you repeat that through town meetings and in general daily conversations, people hear that and they're like, "Oh, well, the state rep says you guys are top heavy. Senator says you're top heavy." I have never gotten an answer other than you guys are top heavy. That's not much of an answer, and it's not much of a conversation. I've always asked for more, and I haven't gotten it. A couple of the other things that happened at the Board of Finance meeting the other day were a little questionable, maybe. I have a lot of respect for Len Fasano. He was a great senator here for a long time. And he made a couple of comments that I was a little confused about because he's been out of the process for a long time. I've been here for, 4 years, maybe a little longer. Been chair for maybe 3 or 4 years. I've never spoken to Len Fasano. He never introduced himself to me. He never reached out, showed concern about, "Oh, you guys are spending too much money. You're doing it wrong. I have some ideas." And I would be open to that conversation anytime. And I invite Mr. Fasano to contact the superintendent's office to please schedule a date where he is available to come and speak to us. I would love to sit down and explain to him that, yes, when you were a senator, maybe the cost per student was lower, and now the enrollment's lower and the cost per student is higher. Maybe that has to do with the millions in unfunded mandates that we get from the state every year. Maybe it's because we haven't really gotten any money from our rep and from our state senator every year. I mean, we got $175,000. Cheshire got $500,000 more than that. I'm pretty sure Cheshire is very comparable to North Haven when it comes to the way it's governed, its size, its wealth structure, and everything else. So, I don't know what to say about that other than we're not getting that money. I wish we weren't. It would make everyone's life much easier. But, again, to Mr. Fasano, I would say, maybe you are unaware, maybe you are, and don't know the extent of it. But there are a lot of things that we are now required to do, especially after COVID, that there was never a requirement for. And there is more special education and mental health awareness that we have to take care of on a daily basis than ever before. Students are more confused than ever. They are more violent than ever. And there are things that we do today that were never done before, and that all cost money to get these kids educated and working in a positive fashion to move forward with their lives. That's all I would say to Mr. Fasano, and please take the opportunity to call, meet with myself and Mr. Stirp at any time. The other one of the other things I like to mention is Sally Boemi and her constant misrepresentation of how we got to where we are on the budget. I'm going to do it simply and quickly, I hope. On the day after Christmas, we were informed by B&B, who is our insurance company, that in order to cover our increased workers' compensation claims, we would have to add $3 million to our budget, which was shocking. And we immediately asked Brown & Brown, please reevaluate that. It doesn't seem possible. They were like, it's been reevaluated, it's the number. On January 15th, we had our second workshop to create the budget. Our budget number was approximately 5.6% until we added the $3 million, which brought it to 11.1. So that $3 million were funds that, number one, we did not expect, and we still didn't believe, but we had to carry it. March 2nd, between January 15th and March 2nd, we were asked by the First Selectman to please sharpen your pencils, meet again, see what you can do. And we were for that, and on January 15th, we met on our second workshop, and we brought our, on March 2nd, we had a workshop and we lowered our request to 9.9%. That still included the $3 million from Brown & Brown. On 3/11, we had our regular meeting. On 3/17, Brown & Brown got back to us and said, guess what? We were off by $1.4 million, and $1.4 million came back off our budget request. Now, we got that call from Brown & Brown on the 17th of March, and immediately we called the town selectmen and we said, listen, Brown & Brown's coming with new numbers, our number's going to change. Now, it's not for me as the board chair to say, okay, we can subtract that number from that, so it'll be 7.05. I can't do that. That is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to bring the board together, present the facts, vote on it, recalculate, and then inform the town. I don't have any authority to do that on my own. It has to be done through scheduled meetings. So we had that meeting on 4/2, which is basically 2 weeks after our notification. We dropped down to 6.75. Correct? 3.5. I'm sorry. Can't read my writing. 6.35. On 4/12, the Board of Finance gave us another $500 allotment to put towards trying to save some teachers. That put us back at 7.08. That's the timeline. So when she says, you know, how dare they knew and they held on to that information, like why am I holding on to that information? There's no gain for the Board of Education to hold on to any information. When we got that information in Brown & Brown, we contacted the town right away. Same day. But I can't, in good operation of this board, just say, hey, Mike, not only that, but now our budget's going to be so-and-so, this particular number. I cannot do that. That has to be done as a whole by the board. And if Sally Boemi remembers her days in the Board of Finance, she would have remembered that. But she likes to talk about how she was a member of the Board of Finance and she was a third selectman, but yet conveniently forgets that those decisions can't be just made by any board chair. They have to go through committee. And she constantly neglects to say that. And it makes it sound like fishy business is going on. You know, the other thing is, you know, we got $1 million check from the insurance. We didn't get $1 million check from the insurance company. God, I wish we did. They called and said, take $1 million off the expectation. Not, here's a check. That never happens. The same with our budget at the end of the year when we have unencumbered funds, basically a surplus. Last year, we had $235,000, something to that effect. You know, she made it seem like, oh my God, you know, they overcharged you $235,000. That was on $70 million. That's, I think, less than half of 1%. And I was like, we all do budgets. Whether we do budgets for our homes or for our kids' education, where we've all come in less than 0.5%. I would dare to say that doesn't happen. Fact remains, if we were worried about showing none, we could have went on a spending spree the last week of June and spent that money. It's not like we don't need stuff. Could have bought chairs for hair. These chairs are lousy. We could have bought anything. We could have bought a microphone system. We could have spent it on the kids. We could have done anything. But no, we took that money, we put it back into the next year's budget where it gets absorbed like every year we have unencumbered funds. We do not have a bank account for extenuating circumstances like the town does. When the town has unencumbered funds, they're allowed to put it into a bank account, and that's the general fund that he was talking about the other day where there's 11.8 million in it or such. We don't have that. I've asked for one, and they said I can't get it. And I've asked for one because if we had one, and I had $1 million, $2 million tucked away in there, I can easily pull it out to balance the budget. But we're not either allowed to have one, or I've not been given permission to have one, that's for sure. But our unencumbered funds go back into the next year's budget and get absorbed into that. So there is no continuation of these monies that we collect and have in our back pocket to throw a big party at the end of the year. That is not the case at all. One of the other things they talk about is, maybe the education system needs to do a deep dive into what they're doing and how they're doing it. And again, I would fall back on, we are fourth in the dirt, fourth lowest in spending. We are, bless you, about fourth highest in achievement, plus all the other achievements I've mentioned. What dive do you need to do to know that you're doing things at an extraordinary level for an extraordinarily low price? I don't know. I don't know how else to answer that question. But again, if Mr. Fasano would love to meet, I would appreciate that meeting. So with the discussions of deep dive, there are decisions that are easily made, and there are decisions that are not easily made. I want to talk briefly about the ID program and how unpopular we know it was, but how difficult it was to get off that program. 2 years ago, when the state came to the Board of Education throughout the state and said, this is the way we want to start teaching these classrooms, and it's different than the way you're currently doing it with ID. So I met briefly with the superintendent, by myself, with Christian, as a board. I was the only board member there. And I said, listen, if you want my advice, start phasing it out. If this is how the state wants to start to go with the way we're teaching, we need to phase it out because it's not going to work. And he was adamant about, it's going to work, we're going to make it work. I used to be at Ridge, I know how much the people love the program, the kids love the program, I need to figure it out. I said, you're the boss, man, if you can figure it out, you figure it out. And he did figure it out that year. It was painful, and it wasn't really the way he wanted it figured out because it was costing us time and money and effort that was way over any other effort allotment that we'd always put into the program. But he admired that program so much he kept it up. So when the second year rolled around, I said, are you sure you want to keep this program going? He said, absolutely, I want to keep it going again. We're going to keep pushing. And the more he pushed, you could see that the teachers were burning out. The classes weren't quite the same. We know parents were upset because, that thing is 58 years old. It's a life on its own, right? We know that it has its own heart rate and pulse, regardless of whether it worked or not, and people don't want to see it go. I again advised him at the beginning of the year it needs to go. He said no. He tried and tried and tried. At the end of 2 months ago, where we knew it wasn't going to work anymore, especially with the way teaching had changed and the responsibilities that they had to keep grades singular, it became impossible. The problem was we waited so long to change it. We had to do it in short order because we were already prepping for the next year's budget. When that announcement came out, we were already into talks about what's going on today. So unfortunately, by being stubborn and trying to get this thing to work and work and work, we kind of put ourselves in a box where it had to be ended so that we can move forward with this year's budget and reallocating of teachers and locations and making sure students were getting taken care of and how we were going to do that. Is that a great excuse? No. No. I'm just telling you what happened and why it happened. And I know people are upset. I have family members that are in the program. They were upset. But, you know, we tried to present the teachers unions, the principals, and the administrators to explain, listen, this is really why it doesn't work anymore. Please believe me, we're not just saying it so we can move on. This is really what it is. And, you know, it turned into, well, the BOE forced the teachers into saying things they really didn't want to say, and so on. And believe me when I tell you, that is not the case. We don't force teachers to say anything. Teachers, believe me, they're pretty free-spirited. They have their own minds. They're going to say what they want to say when they want to say it, as well they should. And that's the way, really, we kind of like it that way. That's the only way to get information flow back and forth. So, you know, if there's someone to blame on the ID, you know, blame me, because I could have been much harder in saying, no, the Board of Education is not going to finance that anymore. But he had hopes of saving. So the only reason you had it as long as you did is because of this man. Not because of me, because it would have been going. I'm going to be very honest with you, because I knew it was coming to an end. He knew too, but he wanted to save it, and I don't blame him. That's about all I really have to say about what was going on with the meetings, statements made by others, some misunderstandings about message when it comes to ID program, when it comes to explanation of the budget, how we got to where we are today in the time frame, and the discussions that were had to get here. None of it was easy, but here we are. And I hope that at least laid some explanation on the table that everyone can kind of look at and understand. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but I want to put it out there because it's the truth. And I'm never afraid to answer a question, or is anybody on the board, about what's going on. I've had many unpleasant conversations. We've all have or had children go through the system, through the sports programs here, through any other extracurricular opportunity. Back when Moppet Minders was around, I put all my kids through Moppet Minders. So we've been here a long time. I know I've been a resident of this town for 56 years. I've been a homeowner in this town for 40 years. I think my mortgage will be paid off. Anyways, I've been here for a long time, and I've seen a lot happen. I've seen the school system go up and down. A lot of things change. We are on a projected rise. We've been on a rise. And I don't care what anybody says. All the Lanfasanos, all the Sally Guemes in the world can say what they like. They cannot say that this school is not successful and the envy of many other schools in the dirt and around the state. That's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to move on now to try to figure out the budget. Unless, Randy, do you have anything you want to say? I know I went on for a while, but I felt the need to maybe try to get some explanation out there. You're most correct. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to have the administration go over the proposed cuts. Now, just before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, these cuts are miserable to make. Nobody wants to make them. I have to give the administrators a lot of credit. They're talking about people that they've worked with for years and years and years. They have relationships with outside the school. They have good relations inside the school. anything that happens here is not an effect of that relationship. We didn't hide anybody from a deep dive because we like them. We didn't put anybody forward because they're not our favorite. That's not what happened. We have to take a cold, hard look at what's going on and make some really, really tough decisions. So as these decisions are talked about, if we can please refrain from any kind of emotional outburst about it. It's hard. It's hard. I've been laid off myself. It's not easy. It's miserable. But we have to do what we have to do. So with that, I'm going to leave the administration to start to talk about our first options.
Thank you, Ron. All right, the board has two forms or two charts at their places. The first is the portrait one that actually Ron walked you through from the 11.14 down to the 708. That's something we're all familiar with. We've seen that. It also has a timeline if you look to the left, the dates that Ron gave.
Excuse me, Patrick, I apologize. There's 25 people out in the hall. We can hear Ron easily. Would you mind just speak up a little bit so people...
Do my very best.
Thank you.
The other chart outside, the other chart, the landscape one, is the one I'll be referring to and talking through the board with right now. And those are the proposed reductions to reach the $1.7 million decrease to the budget, which brings us to a 4.53% overall increase for 26-27. So we'll start with the green. The green is, yes. Yeah, I'm not going to be yelling. I'm here to talk to you all, so I mean, this is how I talk.
Do you guys want to just come in on
Yeah.
the sides?
Yes.
We can't hear you.
Go in on the sides
got it.
if you want to hear.
Yes,
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
There's a huge crowd out there.
Well,
We
they
can't
can
hear.
come squeeze in the best they can. Yes. We'll wait another minute. If you need another minute to kind of file in, that's fine. We saw a big chunk out there or no?
We're all being shot.
Well, I can't help that. I can only offer, right?
There's somebody behind you on that door.
Okay, we're gonna proceed? Yes? Okay, thank you. Please.
All right, referring to the top of your document, you'll see the four green lines at the top. Those are administrator reductions. There are two positions that are being proposed to be reduced. It's the athletic director position and the director of buildings and grounds. You can see there are four lines there because there's a new stipend put in for the athletic director, and it's for services for the athletic directing and for services for the director of building and grounds. They are listed at $25,000 each, but that is the full elimination of those full-time positions. The next grouping is the red. I'm going to highlight them quickly, and then actually Melinda's going to go into a little bit of depth for everybody. So there's the coordinator, reorganization, and consolidation. There's the elimination of 4 coordinator positions within the district. You'll see there's a savings of $244,000 there. Along with that are their stipends for every coordinator at $81,000. And coordinators also have summer hours, so those will be eliminated as well at $18,000. There's an elementary classroom consolidation. This impacts 1 classroom at each of our 4 elementary schools, so that's a total of 4 positions at a savings of roughly $290,000. The elimination of 7th grade world language classes, again, 7th grade only, at $206,000 savings, which impacts 3 positions in the district. And the final line of the red grouping is to propose new special education teachers that we had in the budget. There's 4 of those. Those are positions, those are not bodies currently in the district. That is a savings of $219,000. Again, that's 4 positions. So would you like to highlight some of those, please?
Sure. With the coordinator reorganization and consolidation, I would like to move IXL and iReady from the grants that we had talked about in a previous meeting and utilize some of those fundings as well as different movement that will happen within the coordinator groupings. We still need instructional leadership in our buildings that work on curriculum, that guide teachers, mentor new teachers. So with this reduction, I can get creative with some of the grant money and utilizing staff that we have in some different capacities, but still be able to keep that instructional leadership going on in the buildings. When Patrick had mentioned about the elementary class sizes, we were able to reduce 1 in each of the 4 buildings, and I'll just give a small example of what that might look like. For instance, if there was a classroom that currently had 72 students in the whole grade and we had 4 teachers, we would reduce that to 3 teachers, and it would increase the class sizes to 24 in each of the classes, just as an example of what that looks like.
The next grouping is the yellow group. The top line is a proposed new occupational therapist position. That is in the group 5 that we had spoken about throughout the budget. That is a position, not a body, currently in district, so that's a savings of $75,000. The next 2 lines are non-certified positions. The elimination of the 2 library clerks, one at middle school and one at high school. That is savings of $83,000. And the attendance clerk position at the high school for $26,000. The last 4, almost the last 4 lines in blue are employer medical and dental savings, Social Security expense savings, Medicare expense savings, and pension expense savings due to the elimination of all those positions. And the final line is a $12,000 cut to the Future Problem Solvers field trip subsidy. It's not to do with the program. The program will remain, but we do have a subsidy of $12,000 to support their field trip that occurs each year in June.
May I interrupt you just to share about the world language proposal? I know initially we had spoken about eliminating world language at the middle school in its totality. And I worry very much about that because we have lots of students who are accessing really higher level language courses at the high school. And currently at the middle school, we teach half of year 1 in 7th grade and the other half in 8th grade. With this shift, we're still going to be able to give students opportunities to take the higher level languages at the high school. For this coming year, 8th grade will teach the second half just as they would have planned normally. During next year and through that next summer, I will work to integrate change at 8th grade where they will teach whatever the world language course is level 1 at the high school. Instead of it being broken into 2 years, they will do it in the 8th grade year. And it will get them the same opportunities that they currently have now. So as we have worked this, that was a compromise that we could put on the table so that we don't have the same kind of impact to students.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. No, thank you.
So that is the total reduction for this portion to get us down to the 4.53. There's a total of 21 positions. Again, 5 of those positions do not have current bodies in them because they were proposed for this budget year. I do not want to forget, in order for us to get down to the 7.08, we also had, as everyone knows, certified retirees taking the early retirement incentive plan. Those 8 positions are, again, we are not planning to fill them. And there's also one position of a non-certified retiree that we will not plan to fill. So between tonight and those positions that I just mentioned, is a total of 30 positions reduced.
Okay. So again, I know that was a very difficult job, and I'm sure it was very difficult to present. So now it's our job to kind of go through these, look at them, see if there's any changes that we may like to make or not. I remind you this, any change we make that adds something to this, a change has to be made to take something out. The number at the bottom is the number, and it has to be the number. So as we add 100, you need to find 100. If you add 2,500, you need to find 2,500. So keep that in mind as you make suggestions. I know everyone has some to make, I'm sure. I think, normally I start at the end with the newer people and I work our way out. I think because of the severity of this, I'm going to start with the most senior people and work backwards a little bit. So I think that leaves you, Randy, as the first. I mean, I'll go first if you like.
I would love that.
Why did I even mention that? All right, I have 1 or 2 concerns about the budget. I do not like 24 in an elementary classroom. I think we're asking too much of the student. I think we're asking too much of the teacher to do that classroom like that. That is the start of their educational journey, and you want to make sure that everything that they have is super solid and on track. So that is an issue for me. The other thing that I think we can find with the move I'm going to suggest is the future problem solvers trip. So instead of basically saying the future solvers trip, problem solvers trip, even say it twice, that should be basically say something to the effect of money back to field trips. There are several field trips throughout the year for the school, and that 12,000 should be divvied up the best we can, or however we see fit at the time. In order to reach that, it's basically 303,000. My suggestion would be that we lose an assistant principal from the high school, and we lose 1 from the middle school. That is it's a big, difficult ask. They're all big, difficult asks. But it is something that I think that, at a minimum, we should at least look at. The work that the APs do, I don't really know how we would cover it. I don't know yet. I mean, there's only one way, is you divvy up their work into the existing principal and AP and say, have at it, which is a lousy thing to do, but these are lousy times. So as I look at the budget, I say to myself, we're here for educational standards of the kids and to provide them with the best opportunities to succeed. And one of the ways to do that is to keep the classroom small and to keep that social, so they can develop social skills and they can be given more of a one-on-one chance to succeed. That's my suggestion for the budget. And I think that if you listen to the public comments, if you listen to what's happening at the meetings, what's being said at selectmen meetings, what's being said at Board of Finance meetings, is that people are looking for a move in the administration level. And I don't believe that that desire follows into the classroom. I don't think they want classrooms to change. I don't know that I want classrooms to change. Either way, it's a lousy decision, and I'm just putting it out there. Randy, your turn.
I think I have more questions than statements right now.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm going to bounce off of what you just said to start on. So, classrooms. So, Patrick, I think you said this, I'm sorry, but I didn't write it down. So, with reducing the classroom teachers, one at each building, classroom sizes, what would they be with the teacher and what would they be without the teacher? How much have they gone?
So I had given an example of 72 students in 73 students in, we'll use that one in 5th grade, and currently we have 4 classrooms for that. It would be reduced to 3, and there would be 24 in the classroom.
24 in a class.
Another example might be a 3rd grade with 45 students. We currently have 3, so that'd be 15 in each as it is now. Consolidating to 2 puts it at 23 in each of the 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Those are just a couple of examples.
So if we were to increase the class size as you're looking at the upper grades, not the primary, not K1, 2, 1,
yes.
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5, exactly.
And that's across all 4 elementary schools.
Yes.
How many administrators do we have at the high school? We have 1 principal and how many APs?
2 assistants.
Currently.
Correct. An athletic director who also within that unit.
And 1 AD. And then at the middle school, we have 1 principal and
2
2
assistants.
APs.
And just to note, 1 assistant in each building is an 11-month assistant.
And how many students do we have at the high school?
950-ish.
Sorry?
950.
950, and at the middle school?
760.
760.
Roughly.
902 as of March 1st
Too high.
at the high school, and 768 at the middle school as of May 1st, excuse me.
Thank you.
May 1st.
So I don't like any of this, right? Like, I think that just goes for saying, and I'm not gonna talk about why I don't like any of this, because I think we all feel the same way. So I'm not gonna rehash all of that we've been saying for months. The fact that we have to reduce our district by 30 educators is awful. Maybe that's not the right word. Ron, I'm gonna push back a little bit on your AP suggestion. And
Sure.
the reason I'm going to do that is because, I agree with you, small class sizes is what everybody wants. There's no doubt about that. Being a teacher myself and in education, we all know that smaller class size is better. But I think as a board, what we always have to do is make decisions for what's better for most. And when I think about reducing the administration at the middle school and the high school by an administrator, that ratio of student to administrator increases so much that the impact that will have on the students across the entire high school and the entire middle school is going to be significantly more powerful than the impact it will have on 4 elementary classrooms when we're talking about 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Because in the upper elementary classes, it is common, not preferable, but common to have classes of that size. I know in my own school, we have classes up to 26 in grades 5. When I was in New Haven, we had them to 28, 30, 32. I'm not saying that that's what we want
Right.
by any means,
Right.
but it happens. And will it be great for that class? Absolutely not. Is that what the parents, the teachers, and the students want? Definitely not. But we're talking about, when we talk about administrators and their responsibilities are vast throughout the day, you said it yourself, like, we're talking about more mental health and special education needs than ever before. They are the instructional leaders of the schools. They keep the school safe on 1,000 different levels throughout the day. And if we remove an adult an administrator from each of those schools, I worry about how we can continue to move those schools forward. Especially if we are reducing the coordinators, and the coordinators do a lot of the instructional leadership. You know, that's going to fall on the administrators, and if we do reduce the administrators, it just kind of, I think it just kind
It
of
just snowballs into a bigger
dominoes, yeah.
problem, okay.
So I hope I'm being clear, because I feel like.
Oh, no, you're being very clear. And again, that's why we're here, right? We're here to have conversations about options, so that's absolutely fine what you're saying.
And I didn't think I was gonna talk about that, so I'm just kind of like shooting from the hip here with that, but, so that's kind of my feedback on that suggestion. Just a quick question about the future problem solving, this is just because I don't know the answer to this. The 12-1, is that the total amount that we typically give them, or a partial amount that we typically give to support?
Total, what's budget for?
For just the field trip.
Yeah, for just
For
the field
just
trip.
the field
Yeah,
trip.
it's
And
not the
they-
program related, it's not related to the program at all.
And they
Program
typically
stays.
fundraise more than that for their field trip? So they would have to fundraise 12 more than what they, what do they typically fundraise for that, you know?
Say it again.
What do they typically fundraise for that, you know?
It's been, they just kind of compute the cost, and then they ask the parents, this is how much
Oh,
the trip is gonna cost, and then obviously if there's people that can't do it, I don't know what happens behind the scenes there, but
okay.
if there, people aren't prohibitive going because they couldn't pay for it, but otherwise it's goes to the parents.
So I know that Mr. Diana retired a month or two ago, whatever it was, I don't even know how long it was now. How has, so you're confident that without replacing his position and using the stipend, that we'll be able to, I know it'll be harder because it's a whole person that we're not having, but be able to cover the additional responsibilities?
Yes, with support from Christian and myself, and the stipend will be able to cover that.
Okay. And then how, with the athletic director, how is that going to happen? How does that work?
The $25,000 stipend will be provided to, we have to figure out how that's gonna look necessarily. I'm not sure if it will be seasonal or for a full year, we have to see interest. But again, more will fall to building administration as well for responsibilities.
I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I think I'm
Okay, Joe?
So, I know this was very difficult to put together, so no one in this room is happy about any of this, right? So I hesitate to call it a positive, but I guess the benefits that I see from some of the things that you've done here, you know, we've kept sports pretty much intact outside of the athletic director position if this happens. You know, there is some impact to the world language program, but there's still the option for kids to take languages in the middle school, which that was a great concern of mine, that if there was no world language program, the ripple effect of that going forward was going to last years and years and years, and either kids wouldn't be taking languages or they'd be so far behind, and especially after like the showing we had with the Seal of Biliteracy this year, and I mean there's just so many causes there. So I appreciate you being able to work some of that in. You know, we also heard from a lot of people about future problem solvers and keeping that intact. And, you know, for the most part, that program still exists if we agree to this. The field trip, you know, that's tough. It's already, speaking as one of those parents that pays for it now, it's already a good chunk. If it's not subsidized, you know, I do fear that people either won't be able to go, and the concern I always have when we say, you know, we'll fundraise is we're fundraising and we're asking the same groups of people for the same money, or, you know, for money for 10 different things. And that, you know, after a while, not only does it become white noise, it just becomes, there's no more money for anybody to give. So I'm not sure where I stand on that right now, but it's the least of my concerns on this list. I quite honestly, the coordinator position really, it crushes my soul. Like that position, I don't think people realize how important that is to how high functioning the district is. That really, it hurts. I did have a question about the elementary school. Are those building level administrator decisions there, or like as to what classrooms get, how is that gonna be decided, what classrooms get merged?
It's enrollment based.
Okay. So it could look different in each
It does.
class, I mean, in each school, okay. I mean, Ron threw me for a nice curveball with the AP positions. I was not anticipating that, but I do think it's a very fair point to make, especially listening to what the public has said. And, you know, I'd like some more information as to what that would look like if we did eliminate those roles, and what, really what happens in each of those schools, you know, when the APs get down by one. And then the last kind of thing on here that at least is floating in my mind right now is, I think the buildings and the grounds position, I think, you know, we've kind of, we'll be okay there. I am quite concerned really with the elimination of the full-time athletic director position, and I don't know, quite honestly, I was ignorant to all the different things that the AD does. You know, I had a general idea, but then all the emails, and then from, you know, like the head of I think it was the CIAC, you know, athletic director guy emailed us and provided more information. It's a huge, huge responsibility that I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not convinced that a stipend position can carry all the responsibilities there. So those are the things that are, I guess it's more just
clarify a little bit. It's a stipend position plus a part-timer, correct? That we already have?
There's an administrative assistant. It's a full-time administrative assistant in the athletic director's office.
That's primarily like scheduling and.
Buses, transportation, logistics.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's not just a one stipended position.
Okay.
That's all.
And Joe, I could just talk a little bit, in particular, like about the middle school AP. You know, there are a significant number of students with IEPs there. I want to say around 116 to 120. And that requires multiple PPT meetings, parent planning team meetings. So that's a huge amount of time that, you know, one admin has to be present at that takes care of a lot of that. Never mind the office referrals and that age group being, you know, challenging as they're developing. I believe we're close to 76 certified staff there. Does that sound right? Yes. And those evaluations for teacher evaluation have to be conducted too. And those are kind of the IEPs and the evaluations are non-negotiable. There are probably slightly greater numbers at the high school due to the higher number, but those are just some like concrete pieces that I know absorb them a lot of the day.
Yeah.
Do I have to do it in my turn?
No.
Sorry.
No.
So, you know, we've been at this table for a really long time together, so I say this with like complete respect. You and Ron both used the phrase, the public said they want.
Yeah.
And they mentioned less administrator. I think we are listening to the public when they said they want us to spend less money,
Right.
right? We are spending
Yes.
$1.7 million less money, which is causing us to further reduce and completely reduce 30 people.
Yes.
We don't have to listen to them as to how we spend it. I think to a certain extent, we need to rely on the professionals in our public school system as to where the least impact will be, taking
Right.
everything into consideration. And I think that if the team up here thought that reducing APs would be least impactful, and don't get me wrong, every single one of these people is a huge impact, so I don't mean to minimize anybody on this piece of paper. But just because people outside of education say we're top-heavy, or that's not the way it was when I was there, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, that's not the way it was. I'm sorry, but there are professionals in their positions right now for a reason, and we need to listen to them because they know the needs of the teachers and the students in this district. So yes, we are listening to the public, we are cutting by $1.7 million, but you know what? I do not want to put the safety of our students and our teachers and the instructional leadership in jeopardy because the public has sticky fingers behind screens. I'm sorry, but
I get it. Right, I
that
get
is
it.
not a place where I'm
I
going
get
to
it.
go.
And you
Sorry.
know,
No.
you know well enough, both Ron and I, and
I know,
if I may
and
be
that's why I
presumptuous
said,
to speak for you for
that's why I
one
said
second,
respectfully, Joe.
we're, at least the way I'm saying the public, is it's been a point that's been raised, I think we have an obligation to at least look into it and
Right.
discuss it. I don't think it's something that, just because somebody brought up, that we, you know, we have to go by it, but I do
Right.
think it warrants a discussion. And if nothing else, by that discussion, maybe people understand the role of what everybody does in that building and how significant it is to have multiple administrators in there. And maybe there's room to do one at one school and not at the other, or whatever. I don't think just because it wasn't on the paper that was put in front of us, that it's something that we should at least talk
Okay,
about.
that's fair.
Goldie?
So I just only have a quick comment. So unfortunately, you know, this is where we are. The public, you know, feeding on what both of you said, you know, they wanted this number in terms of the budget. And, you know, Patrick and his team has done, you know, a good job, difficult job, putting this proposal before us. I did have a follow-up comment to what Joe talked about regarding the AD position, and it's something that I've been thinking about is whatever you decide to, I'm not going to make that decision for you and tell you what you to do, but whatever decision you make regarding that position as to who's going to take over, if that's the direction, is on a higher level, somebody who can, as Joe mentioned, who can take care of the higher level things. You know, if it's in terms of being present at meetings, you know, statewide meetings, doing all the high-level coordinations, all those things. Just make sure that it's somebody, because we have, you know, run a pretty successful athletic program. I want to continue to do that. And so whatever decision you decide to make in that position, just make sure that, my thought is to make sure that that person is able to do that. Regarding the future problem solvers field trip, Joe had mentioned, you know, about fundraising. I mean, the North Haven Education Foundation is hopefully will be able to help as they always do, you know, so hopefully there are ways that 12,000 can be plugged in hopefully, because it is a very, very important trip. So it's a difficult decision, but you know, this is what we have to do. So I don't have any questions, you know, regarding what's been presented, except those clarification, you know, questions. And then is just to make sure that as you're merging those classes, just be strategic about it. You know, I know Patrick did mention that it's based on enrollment, but you know, just be careful about the merger, and then also just keep parents informed as to, you know, their class, you know, that their kids are attending. It's going to be communication, I would say, is key, because the transition will be very difficult. That's all I have.
Thank you, Goldie. Amanda?
So I'm in agreement with Randy. on all things always. No, just kidding. But I do think, like, I listen to the professionals here and I trust what they say, but I also verify, right? So, like, I'm constantly looking things up, doing deep dives of my own with my 12-year-old. If anybody would like to do a deep dive on anything, we'll both sit with you anytime. And I was looking at administrative recommendations, right? So for lockdowns, evacuations, emergencies, coordinating with police and fire and the SROs, building-wide supervision, behavioral intervention, de-escalation, parent communication, preventing suspensions, teacher evaluations, which are legally required, coaching and support, ensuring classroom quality, scheduling, compliance, and then special education coordination that Melinda brought up. Like, I do worry about shrinking those AP positions further because we did shrink one last year. We used to have 3 APs at the high school. It's working well now with 2 APs at the high school. And for the middle school, I really worry. I remember I was at the play with Miss Bankowski, and I was a volunteer, and I was like, I don't know how you do this all day, every day. I manage people for a living, and these kids are very challenging, and I give you a lot of credit for it. But I do think that there are myriad behavioral issues that that we see that our administrators are dealing with, and we want to make sure that everybody else can focus and learn. Just my 2 cents on that piece. Fully hear you, though, on a lot of the feedback that we're getting. In most of these, I want to just kind of think about where does the work go? Because there are 30 positions here, but there are 30 positions worth of work on this document, that's a significant amount of our staff. And the work won't just disappear, like it's going to go somewhere else. So I'd love to just kind of understand specifically, like, which departments are we losing coordinators for and where that work will go. I understand the elementary classrooms. I sort of understand the grounds position, but I'd like to just double click on the athletic director position. I'd like to understand better the 2 library clerk positions. And the attendance clerk position to see like where that work would go. And I'd also just like to ask about the new occupational therapist position. It was going to cost us $75,000, but the line item that we're budgeting for is $150,000 because we contract services out. So there's been a lot of discussion about the positions that the Board of Ed has hired, and I want to just can I spend a second on that? So, as Ron said, we are the fourth lowest in our DIRG from expenditures. We spend an average of $2,000 less per student per year than others. If we went on a spending spree, we would see it in the money. What we have done is been strategic about pulling contracted services in. Like, we're doing this in the private sector right now too. Contracted services can cost 2 to 3 times the amount. You don't have the commitment for medical, dental benefits, etc. But when you're in an environment like a school system, the risk isn't there. Because you're not just setting something up to run a project for a little while. You're setting up children to learn and to be part of the future. So I know that there's been like a very surface level criticism of some of the hiring, and I wish folks would double click on it a little bit and understand that we actually save $5 million a year with the RISE program by bringing kids back into district. That did require that we hire some people. Those people are not extra people. They need to be here. So that's one other thing. And last but not least, for world languages, at the middle school, are we still going to offer the 4 that we offer today for 8th grade?
We would. As
So
we move
Spanish,
into next
Italian,
year.
French, and Chinese.
Correct.
Okay.
We'd have to do some splitting of staff between the high school and the middle school to make it work.
That's a very creative solution. I want to give you guys props for that. I don't love that we're getting rid of 7th grade language. We've also heard from people that starting language even younger is good for the kiddos. I want to just acknowledge and make sure that we're saying that out loud as well. But if you wouldn't mind just walking me through like the specifics around what coordinators are being consolidated. Are all of the coordinator summer hours included in the 18,000? And then just a little bit of where the work is being redistributed when we're looking at these
So I
consolidations.
can speak a little bit to that. We had already eliminated any summer curriculum writing a few budget iterations ago. So that money is already out. So the coordinators would typically lead teams of teachers to do some of that work. So that's a shift that we're gonna have to make for this coming year. We have some movements throughout the district, if we're being completely transparent. Due to the budget climate, we know people are applying for other positions, some people have, potentially have taken other positions. So that's happening all across the board, and that saddens us tremendously. But in the coordinator consolidation piece, I would like to just kind of have the freedom to see where everything kind of shakes out, and then I want to have representation of instructional leaders at each of the 3 levels, elementary, middle, and high. And we need to develop practices where we can go across contents and we can go up and down K through 12 to make sure that we're covering things.
So you're talking about moving to like a matrix model of coordination, where
Kind of like more like an instructional coordinator kind of team.
Okay.
So it's very complicated because currently we have 18 coordinator teacher leader positions. These are teacher positions. 6 of them currently are full-time in content areas, core content areas across the district. 7 of them currently teach and get a stipend and have 2 blocks free in their schedule. Some teach fully just because their department needed more assistance. And then there are 5 that are under special services. So we would make changes to about 4 of those positions in the totality of being coordinators, and then distribute kind of responsibilities from there. We have to grow a new team and a new way of thinking about it. If this comes to fruition, there are lots of responsibilities that the coordinators do that would seem like no one would know if you didn't dig into them, right? They're instrumental in scheduling. They're instrumental in our pacing of our instructional units by discipline, our assessment calendars. They are an integral part of our dual enrollments and our college-bearing classes, our AP testing. Many of them actually are some of our higher level AP and ECE instructors, and then during their couple of free blocks, they are able to do unification and curriculum leadership in each of their departments.
Thank you for that, Melinda. That it does make sense to me. When Anthony, this one might be for you. When we're looking to eliminate the proposed new occupational therapist position, which is $75,000, as we said, the budgeted line item is $150,000 this year. If we were to reduce the budgeted line item of $150,000, keep this position in, figure out what we need to do for Social Security, Medicare, and pension, wouldn't we have enough to cover the future problem solvers field trip? Or is it the type of situation where the $150K supports multiple contractors who come in and help with occupational services?
Typically, that's how it is. We have multiple contractors that do come in to support our students, especially at the elementary level. We would have to look at the consolidation piece of it to see where the greatest need is and how we can align that across the district. So the idea of bringing an additional occupational therapist in was to help from K to transition, to help offset some of the hours that we're seeing drastically increasing very rapidly based off of students' IEPs. I don't know if that helps to answer your question.
I mean, it doesn't.
I can give you more. I
hear what Ron's saying about future problem solvers, hear what Joe's saying about future problem solvers, and we're sitting on what's probably a $55,000 expenditure in contractors, which doesn't, I sort of have attitude about contractors, sorry everybody, but they don't have as much skin in the game as folks who are actually employed by the district, and they tend to be very expensive. So in my mind, I'm just trying to think that could maybe be a library clerk too. I'm worried about our librarians, being able to take a break and not, and our kiddos, who a lot of kids spend a lot of time in the library in their free period. So, are we going to shut the library down if we don't have library clerks? And
we will not shut the library down if we do have library clerks.
But how does that work get filled?
And that's what
we need the time to see how the budget develops and who's the ins and outs, as Melinda spoke about. We don't know what those are yet. We're kind of in a volatile place in our district where people are reaching out for recommendations or looking for jobs, aren't sure.
Totally understandable that oh, I understand how they've been treated too.
Right,
So, like, I get it,
and
yeah.
we're, I mean, from person to person, we don't want to lose them, but we cannot encourage them to take care of themselves.
And we're gonna have to get creative around thinking about duties that teachers have and covering the library and those duty sweeps and such, like to be able to kind of look at that differently.
It makes me uncomfortable, though, to ask our teachers to do more. And I know you guys are with me on this, but like our teachers are already wearing so many hats all the time, being like, can you go reshelve some library books? Kind of like,
Right.
sort of kills me a little bit.
Us too.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Can we just double click on the athletic director position again too, because we've gotten a lot of feedback on that. We have an excellent athletics program, like one that we should be very, very proud of. And I'm sure, like, we have an athletic director who is has received accolades and has been lauded statewide for the work that he's done for this district. Like, how do we fill that hole?
We don't.
Yeah,
Very simply, we don't.
yeah.
We fill a bit of that hole. Whether it's from folks up here at central office, folks in the building, and it's a team effort. A $25,000 stipend only gets you so far. We know what the position needs and brings to the table. We'll make do. But we know that, as Goldie said, made a very good point, and Randy too, that there's a lot that we don't know. And there's a lot of representation for our district at SEC, CIAC, that we're going to have to figure this out, make sure that we're in line with what all the other schools are doing. That position keeps us there right now. So it'll be a learning curve for us too.
Well, thank you. That's all I've got for right now.
Thank you. Marty?
A lot of what I was going to say has already been covered, so there's no point in repeating. But I don't have a particular problem with the AD's elimination. I would rather see someone maybe getting one less class a day to teach to help handle that. I understand the issues with that. Having gone through high school for 30 years, I can really appreciate what the AD has done for the schools that they work in. My other issue that I have is with the special ed, as has been spoken to several times. Having outside contractors, yeah, they work okay, but the in-school, my wife spent 30 years in special ed, and the relationship that she developed with the kids is outstanding. Unfortunately, she passed away, but that's neither here nor there. But doing, as it said, doing the IEPs and the other requirements, you just can't have enough people handling that. So I'm very concerned about the special ed program. I would, okay, I'll say it because I'm nasty. I would rather do without the sports program than lose the special ed people.
That's not nasty, it's a point of view.
That's my feeling.
Fine.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. No, but listen, that's why we're here, to hear everybody's point of view and then to hash out a final program. Michelle?
Okay. I have lots of thoughts like everybody else. A lot of what I was thinking has been brought up by people. I've gotten some questions answered in the past week or so. I want to double down on a couple things that I heard. Going back to what Randy said about assistant principals. And I think it's really important, and I'm not taking away from anyone's knowledge at this table here, but I know that Randy works in schools and I work in schools. I specifically worked in middle schools for 10 years. I can remember when I got hired as a middle school teacher, I worked in Waterbury.
And I went to the orientation, and they asked, who was going to elementary school, and, who was going to high school. And then they asked who was going to middle school, and the presenter said a little prayer and said, bless you all, and you are the Green Berets of our district, because middle school is a whole different beast. And I'm not just saying this from my experience of being in middle schools, but I also did some research on typical amount of administrators throughout the state of Connecticut and throughout our DIRG when it comes to enrollment of middle schools and high schools. And what I found is that, and this is true of the different districts I've been in, is that schools of size between 500 and let's say 800, call them medium to almost large size schools, typically have one main principal and then 1 to 2 assistant principals. And it was very much in line with the larger your enrollment was, the more likely you were to have 2 assistant principals. So when I worked in Derby Middle School, we were very small. We had 300 students. We had just the 1 assistant principal. But any other middle school I've been at that has been closer to that 700, 800, 900, they've had 2 assistant principals. So I do think for the types of behaviors that we have typically in middle schools, and all of the other roles that principals serve at middle school and high school level, I do think that we are working with an appropriate amount of principals currently. So I would be very hesitant on doing anything additional. And if there's going to be feedback that we are not doing anything with admins, I mean, we already have 2 admin positions listed on here. So if we as a district have, 17 admins, 16 admins, I don't know what the number is exactly, but taking 2 away is already 11%. So taking away 2 more would get you closer to almost 25% of our administrators. So I am not really in favor of approaching that. That said, I'm also concerned with the class sizes at the elementary school level. I do know that if we've got classes with 16, 17, 18 right now, that is on the low end from where a lot of districts are. But maybe that's part of the reason why we are so successful with so little money spent per student. So if
I would say for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I would say for sure that's a reason.
So as we start to play with these numbers and make these sorts of changes, we are not going to see, my prediction is that we are not going to see the same success rates that we currently have. I work currently in a grade 3 to 5 school, and there are some years where we have, 18 to 20 in a classroom, and it's fairly manageable. And there are years like this year where our district made decisions to also reduce sections, and we have 23, 24 in those classrooms, and it's difficult. It is extremely difficult. So, again, that said, I don't know how we get to where we don't have to do that. So, I don't know. I'm listening to what everyone's saying. I'm taking notes here as people are saying it. I also want to come back to what Amanda said, because it's something I've said frequently as well. I want to know the cost savings for hiring whatever position we were talking about hiring that actually saves us money. Because I understand people look at the numbers and they're like, well, how can we hire if we're reducing? And I get that. I know that. But some of this needs to come with context. Like if we are able to hire somebody and it saves us money so that we can save something else or save somebody's position, then I want to know that. So that comes back to what Randy said with, yes, you can tell us that we have to cut $1.7 million, but you can't really dictate how we're going to do that. And if there's a way for us to hire somebody to save money, like so that we can save somebody else, then I want to know that. I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to not make sense here. What else? Oh, I did have a question about the additional money that was added by the governor You know, everyone got a list of what those allocations were. I know that North Haven did not get a lot, and we were all disappointed that we didn't get as much as someone like a Cheshire or a Wallingford, who got 4 to 5 times as much as we did. But it was said that we would get $176,000 of that money. My understanding from what I've read is that that is for next fiscal year, starting July 1. It's supposed to be available to us. So is there a plan for where that is put into this equation?
So those dollars are not actually part of the operating budget. We're still receiving feedback from the state of Connecticut on how that money will come to us. The July date is right now approximation. There wasn't a tremendous amount of clarity, and we attended the conference with the state a week ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we will be in communication with the town in regards to receiving those funds.
Those funds go directly to the municipalities, they don't come to us.
So it's going to go to the town side, and then they have to give it to us?
Half?
Well, I mean,
It depends, like, it's.
That's still part of the
So you're saying
clarification.
there's a
That's
chance-
part of the clarification that we're still waiting from the state.
Correct.
There is a chance that we don't see anything.
so.
There's a chance we see more, doubtful, chance we see nothing.
Okay, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, and we're not allowed to put any of that towards our budgetary response for next year because it's such an unknown. And I doubt July 1 is the date either. I doubt it. I'm sure it'll be much later than that.
Okay, I'm sure I'm gonna have more, but I'd like to listen to what the rest
Okay.
has to say.
David?
I have a lot of notes here, a lot of them's been done already, so I thank the other board members for bringing those up already. I do worry about the coordinator positions, like all those, the task, where does that fall down on? Because I'm very concerned about bring out our teachers. Our teachers are amazing, and we have the best teachers, and I want to respect their work. For the world language, I didn't want to touch the world language at all. I'm a very big advocate for it. I understand that it's a big chunk, and I honestly don't have an answer on how to supplement that. I know I am very thankful that we've at least got it down to so that we can still have the 8th grade, because that higher AP level languages in high school is so important for some kids getting into those higher level colleges and getting those scholarships that they need to be able to go to further their education. These are just thoughts in my head, so I don't know if I've really thought about perfectly well. Is there a way maybe to, instead of cutting it like that way, or like we lose 7th, we keep 8th, but maybe down this way, maybe like the lower attended languages? And I feel gross saying that.
We did look at that, French and Chinese as being the lower enrollment languages. And that may be something we consider in the future holistically as a district. But we have students already committed at this point. They've already taken the first half of their middle school piece of it. And we also have students at the high school level in French and Chinese
that's what I was afraid
that are
that it
even
would.
moving up, like we have Chinese 5, French 5. So there would have to be a very thoughtful way of doing that over time where we slowly.
I don't want to do that at all.
Right.
Be
So
clear.
it's not
But yeah.
clean to just, it couldn't necessarily work in this scenario
We're
as we,
gonna cut it this way.
right.
And
Because we
Genevieve-
would leave, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we would leave
Interrupt you.
students, in year 3, year 4, year 5, and just cut it from them, and that is not good either.
And eliminating those 2 languages, those students still need somewhere to go, which will increase class sizes somewhere else.
Okay, that's good. That's a good point. Hold on, I think I had something else with the language. I need to flip the table. I'm also concerned about the occupational therapist. Do we know exactly how much it would cost to send the students out if we don't have this occupational therapist?
$150 a year is a contracted cost roughly, right? Anthony, is that about right?
So I don't understand
Yes.
how cutting this, because then we have to add that,
We understand.
that is a big question mark for me, how that even kind of works.
And we also focused on bodies that we have, like, those aren't bodies.
Yeah,
So
no,
they're
I understand.
positions. So in order to save actual bodies, we we focused on those just solely positions. It's not a good trade-off, but if we think people, that's what we're thinking.
I'm also a little concerned about the classroom size of 24 students. There's literally teachers in this room right now that have had my son, who has been, as we all know, free-spirited. And you all know what that means. and I just picture a classroom full of Alexes, you know what I mean, and that poor teacher, and like they're not being, like, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no aides or anything. Like, I know there could be an aide for a special ed student if that was in the class, but that para has to focus on special ed student. So there isn't any, you know, I remember when I was a kid, going back, there was like an aide, a parent or something.
So all our paraeducators
para for the class.
are assigned to special education students. We do not have any classroom
We don't have general
instructional
ed paras in the class. Yeah, so that makes me kind of uncomfortable. I understand that there are some schools that do that anyway, but that doesn't make it a good decision. With the trade-off with the administrators, how many kids are at the high school?
902.
902, okay. Very uncomfortable cutting down to one assistant principal at the high school level, the middle school level. I know it's a smaller, oh, this sucks, I don't want to cut anybody. But the middle school level, I could kind of is a little bit more palatable just because there's 200 less students in there. But there is that point of that it is a different world, you know, in the middle school when it comes to just the age group of the kids that are in there. So how much would it, you know, save us if we went down one one middle school administrator, but kept the high school due to the higher amount of students? Like, is that saving a lot?
It's only 130 kids difference, not 200.
Okay. I asked. I don't know.
Let's just cut it in half, Genevieve, roughly, I mean, for rough numbers.
Questions about Phil have been answered already, so thank you for that. When it comes to the athletic director,
Genevieve, can I just jump in 1 second?
Yeah.
I just asked Christian to figure out the enrollment for the high school next year. We're at 902 right now. The enrollment for next year will be 959.
okay.
The projected, the 8th grade is just a little bigger than the seniors leaving.
The balance of do we do the elementary teacher and have the higher classroom versus do we minimize the assistant principals, like both of them makes my stomach turn. But I do have to think about inside the classroom and the kids directly being affected. And I know they'll also be directly affected in other ways with having only one assistant principal, but like, you know, I just think that the elementary level, the kids, they're just trying to learn so much. It's such a developmental thing. I almost would support going down on the assistant principals in order to keep the smaller. I kind of agree a little bit more with Ron, where he was originally saying, I don't want to do any of it, but push come to shove, that would be, I believe, the better of the two evils here. But like I said, with the athletic director, I think everybody knows I'm a family of artistic theater nerds. I don't know anything about athletics, so I'm going to have to just lean on the other board members who are more familiar with the effect of losing that director position, and kind of just support, you know, their opinions on that. I don't really have a personal opinion myself. I think as of right now, that's my only questions or comments. Yeah, that's all I have for right now.
Thanks, Chief. Tom?
All right, I get to that cleanup. I got a lot to say. I'll start with just picking up on some points everyone made. Class size, I can't make up my mind. It is an option. We have to do something. We all are talking about what we want to keep, but at the end of the day, things have to go. So class size, it's manageable, having a big class. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I've had a class of 25, 26. I've also had a class of 20. There is a difference. I really like to keep that student-teacher, relationship. Whenever I think of cuts, I think of, does this person have a direct relationship daily with the student? That's the way I think of things. So teachers do. I know we're not cutting positions, but it's changing that makeup and that shared time. So I'm impartial to that. I do know that we owe the students the best education, but we were all voted in by the town. So we do owe the town something. We do need to listen to them. We all kind of campaigned on being, fiscally responsible, and we need to do that. So I have heard people talk about administrators as well. I don't want to see anyone lose their job. But I know that people have spoken about that's where they think cuts should go. I'm not saying that's where I think cuts should go, but once again, we are representing the town. And I know that I've spoken to many people and heard many people say that they think that there needs to be cuts with administrators. So I will throw that out there. In terms of the athletic director, this was brought up months ago in a meeting. I asked what would happen, and the discussion was that it would be a stipend. I found out there's one school in Connecticut that operates under a stipend position. It's Shelton. I did reach out to I don't know if you can call him the athletic director there. Great guy. We spoke on the phone for quite some time. He basically told me that he's not doing his job well as a teacher. He misses about 25 to 30 days a year because of his obligations to be the athletic director. Those obligations are going to increase. There's going to be more meetings next year. There's one SEC meeting a month, maybe two. There's captain's conferences. There's PD days. So this guy's missing a ton of class time. That's not a good service to the students. I also reached out to the SEC commissioner, Al Carbone. He was against it. He thought it was a disaster. Would be a disaster. He knows the trouble that Shelton is experiencing. He's been speaking with that individual a lot. Shelton's actually trying to bring back that position. The only reason they cut that job was because during COVID they didn't have sports. And they thought, why are we paying someone to run a department that doesn't have students? So they're trying to bring that back because it's failing there. Things are not going well. And in terms of what we have here with our athletic director, we have someone who's always at the games. Okay, I have, you go down, sit in the middle school parking lot, turn around, and you're going to find Steve. He's going to be on that cart somewhere. That's one of the big things was the presence at the games. Making sure that things are going smoothly. Making sure that students are behaving, because they don't always. The students respect Mr. Blumenthal. They really do. That's not something that happens all the time with a bunch of high school kids. Trying to look cool and tough in front of their friends. They listen to Mr. Blumenthal. He also evaluates every coach. And he also has the task of evaluating teachers, from what I understand. He's taking on administrative roles and taking on some of those tasks. He also promotes the teams. We have 29 sports teams. We have national championships. We have new fields. We have, proud parents who feel comfortable emailing Steve about their concerns. And I think the most important thing, and you can't really put a number on this, is the culture that he's created in North Haven around sports. And I really think that trickles into the classrooms. It makes kids feel proud to go to North Haven. I don't want to see that go. I will die on this hill, guys, for this. It's not because it's Steve, it's because it's what he's done and what he will continue to do. So I cannot see our sports teams continuing the level of success, and with the parents being proud and appreciative of the schools continuing without an athletic director. I think anyone who came in would never be able to fill Steve's shoes. That's if Steve decided to go somewhere one day. Those are big shoes to fill. To expect that from someone doing a teaching job as well it doesn't make sense, guys. It doesn't make sense. It is a disaster at every single level. It's going to affect students who have that teacher. It's going to affect parents. It's going to affect scheduling. I don't think things are going to run smoothly. There's always problems when it comes to sports. I don't know is this person going to pick up the phone at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night when there's a problem at a volleyball game? Are they going to be there on a Saturday? Are they going to stay late on a Friday? So I don't want to see that position gone, but I know we also need to make room. So I'm not against the administrators. I don't want to see anyone gone. Bridget, you were my neighbor. Bridget was my neighbor. She saw me play with her kids. I don't want to see her lose her job. So I'm not against the administrators. I would love to see cuts some other way. I do have some things I've kind of researched a little bit, and I don't even know if these are possible. So I'm going to ask if we have these first, and then can we do without these? How many counselors do we have in high school? 6? 5? 4? 6. Can we do without some of them? I know that one of the counselors met with my daughter. It was awesome. Went over college and all these things, and it was great. It was an hour. I was very appreciative of that. I think that's something we can do without. That's something parents can do. So I would love to see possibly cuts to some of the counselors. Do we have nurse secretaries? A nurse secretary?
1.5.
Okay, do we have to have a nurse secretary? And does that,
Are these rhetorical questions you want us to?
no, I want to
Do
do,
you want
I
to
go
answer?
by law, do we have to have a nurse secretary?
By law, I don't believe so.
Can we do without a nurse secretary?
We can do without any,
Okay.
but it's difficult to quantify any of this.
Yeah, I mean, we want to keep everyone, but I'm saying like, we don't have a legal need or.
There's no legal need.
Okay.
No.
So I would throw that out. We have a high school nurse secretary. We also have a middle school nurse secretary.
Part-time.
Student service secretary, we have 1 at the high school, right?
2.
2 at the high school. I'm sorry, 2. Do we need 2? Can we do without 2? Can we have 1?
I mean, that's not for me to make that sole decision. I think it would be very challenging after living in that office for over 10 years.
So what is like their primary role? Like what is their like day-to-day, like what are they doing? on
So
a
the day-to-day
role?
piece of it is scheduling for all the students. It's also all the college transcripts, keeping all the records. They're also the records custodian. I oversee that piece of it as well. They help to de-escalate students in the moment when they come in upset. That is a big, huge help. They look for staffing to help with crisis management, and they help to orchestrate all of that as well.
Okay. I think we could do with 1. I'm throwing them all out there, guys. Sorry if anyone hates me. These are ideas.
That's
Good to bad
fine,
to ugly.
that's fine.
Also, we have a supervisor of technology support services and a director of technology and safety. Are those like 2 completely different jobs? I don't know what those are.
So the Director of Technology and Safety is Jen Kozlowski. She is just one of our directors in the district, so she's no different than Mr. Diana.
Okay.
Something like that.
And then, so we have, which one was that?
The Director of IT and Safety.
All right, and then we have a supervisor as well.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is the position that is being, that was
Lost to
to the reduction.
That's correct.
The early
Yeah,
retirement.
the
Okay.
early retirement.
Okay. Are we spending anything on staff development this year?
Well, we've been really fortunate because the coordinators have been leading the majority
Yeah.
of our
We're keeping
professional
it
learning.
in-house?
Right.
So we're not cashing out, we're not sending money out for someone to come in?
Very minimal. That is gonna change though if we lose the coordinator positions because those people are really at the ground level with teachers working on individual things by department and courses. In the teacher's contract, there is a portion, right?
That's correct.
If they present, right, so we have to earmark a certain amount in the budget for professional learning
Yep.
per the teacher's contract.
Okay. Anything that can be kept in-house, teachers prefer it that way. I was gonna go into middle school sports, but since that's off the table, I love that we're keeping all the middle school sports. Languages, I had a different approach. I was gonna kind of suggest some things with Chinese, but you explained the phasing out, I get it. I love what you guys did with that, I think it's very creative, perfect. Have we considered selling advertisements for athletic fields, generating income that way?
Causes business conflict of interest. We do have certain sponsorships, but we do have to be mindful of what any organization we go into that type of agreement with, because we can't show, we're neutral. We're not really supposed to be generating a substantial amount of revenue, so we do have some that are out there, but we have to be very mindful about any type of business relationship.
So like if, the town plumber wanted to advertise on the baseball field,
But then, we have to be mindful of of not showing favoritism towards certain vendors. Or
You're basically saying use that plumber, and there are several plumbers in town, so you just have to be careful.
I mean, they pay for the advertisement, that's the reason why they get the I don't understand that one, but, all right, and then, is it possible to spend less money on technology and anything that's geared towards technology and teaching and learning? My thought is kids are spending way too much time on technology. There's been studies that have been out, I'll send you guys everything. When schools introduce more technology, performance goes down. So I would love to see less technology. Is there a way that we can start looking at phasing out certain things that?
We are current.
We are, awesome, okay. That's it for me, guys. My big thing is the athletic director position. I think that you can't go back on it. You know, it's gonna be the end of fall sports and things aren't going well, and we gotta ride it out for winter sports and spring sports. I think it's a disaster. There's a reason why no other schools have gone down that road. And there's a reason why the only district that has been working to try to get that position back. So that's my thought, and I will end on that.
Okay. All right, that's a lot of information. Thank you for everyone for taking the time to ask those questions and really kind of do the research before we even got here. I think maybe what we should do right now is just kind of go around the table and to see, again, this is not a formal vote. Let's kind of see as a blanket who approves, how many are in approval of what is written down here as presented. Tom, we can start with you, shaking your head no, say no.
No.
G?
I'm not comfortable saying yes yet.
Marty?
I'm having some difficulty with it.
Joe? Okay. Randy?
I just don't know what I would change.
Okay. I'm not sure what we would change either.
I don't know.
Amanda?
I'm in.
Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of where Amanda and Randy are, where I don't like a lot of this, but I'm not sure what I would suggest for changes other than, you know, that OT position that saves us money and then we could put it back towards something else.
You say, you know, to add something back in, you gotta take something out, I just don't know
Right.
what that shift is. That's my problem too.
Yeah. The other issue I see is, well, I'll stay with the negative side. What happens in 3 weeks when we come back here?
What do you mean?
Oh, if it doesn't
If
pass.
it fails again.
Oh, if it fails again, then we're back to the drawing board. I mean, I'm trying not to approach it that way. I'm trying to approach it as, this is what we need to do, and we need to get here.
Understood.
And then if we're directed to do something else, then we're gonna need to figure that out later.
Yeah,
I don't wanna make decisions now based on thinking we may have to come back later, because
I'm just
that's
saying-
unfair to this process.
I'm just saying it that way, but.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I can,
I get it.
I can deal with it, as I said, I'm concerned more with special ed than anything else on here. You know, I could live with it if I have to.
Joe, you got thoughts of what you would change?
I mean, my biggest concern right now is the elimination of the athletic director position. I think, trying to think of how I can word what's floating around in my head, and it's difficulty, so why I'm stumbling, so just bear with me for a minute. Look, at all the years I've been on the board, every decision I've made, or at least every decision I've tried to be focused on what's in the best interest of the student. And I know that's what you guys in the central office are always guided by, right? To me, some people look at athletics as an extracurricular activity, not everybody participates in it, and I understand that. But I do think it serves, sometimes this is the only sports some kids are gonna be able to play, is the sports associated with school. It's an outlet, it gives kids something else to do besides screen or getting into trouble. It does foster community and a sense of pride. And my biggest concern with eliminating the AD position is how do you keep all that together? And I'm not convinced that you can. And then, you know, it's like a slow domino effect, and then you've got all of your sports in disarray, you know, and that's kind of where I'm hung up right now. So
Well, it's basically 122 to keep them.
Right.
Because you subtract
Yep.
out the thing.
Yep.
And, you know, I'll say one thing about the sports. I mean, look at the kid from wrestling, right? We just approved the wrestling program 2 years ago. He's got a scholarship to college that he may not have ever gotten. So, I mean, the sports definitely give kids opportunity. There's no question. The thing, again, I'm going to say is that, all right, you want to keep them, that's fine. Find me the money. And that's the thing. Like anything else on here. I mean, there's things we want to keep and maybe, but it's all about the exchange of cash.
I understand that, and I don't have a perfect solution to that. I would be willing to talk about an assistant principal somewhere and see if that balances it.
Assistant principal at the middle school is approximately $150,000. Basically 150.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
know
a
it's not
little
good.
less.
I know there's no good alternatives here, right? I mean, getting rid of an assistant principal at either of the schools, especially when a year ago you downsized one when Tom Bushnell left the high school. You know, it has an impact, and that impacts students as well. Maybe not as it's maybe not as front-facing as something like sports or the athletic program, but so I'm not saying it's a perfect solution, but it's just
There are
one
no
of the things
perfect
I'm willing
solutions.
to discuss more.
There are no perfect solutions.
How many techs do we have? What is the IT department composed of? I know Jen's in there. How many people does she have with her? 11? So what do those 11 people do? And I don't know anything about that world, so I'm sorry.
So I think we can combine to do our best here.
Yes.
But there are tech positions that are assigned to schools to support in-school learning, in-school IT support. So that in the Upper Student Union, and then there are positions outside, like data and systems folks. The one we're eliminating, the manager or the supervisor of IT. And there, keep going. We've got a list.
So really, it's an army to keep our entire tech just infrastructure up and running right now, whether it's the student devices. We've reduced a lot of those tech supply lines, so those people keep what we have running. So whether it's the switches that we've had in those capital lines, that we pull that out, for lack of a better term, Frankenstein the old machines to keep them up and running, security, making sure our cameras are up and running consistently. They basically show up each single day, and they've got a queue of their help desk tickets that they just consistently run through all day long. Whether systems aren't working appropriately in the classroom, hardware, software, you name it. So that's really kind of their day-to-day. They're the constant problem solving within our technology infrastructure.
Let me ask you a
And,
question.
I was just saying, I think just a place we might be able to consider is some of the software and the actual laptop leases, making some little alterations to that. It's not gonna get us a ton of money, but we could squeak a little bit out on that. Again, we run into we definitely need the techs in order to keep what we have
We have Howard just
going.
read the list of
Mhm.
positions, so.
Well,
we answer Randy's question. We have a list, sort of.
Sort of, kind of. The way, so we have, within the union, 4 union, they're called computer techs. And they're doing basically, they're fixing computers that break. There's constantly the Chromebooks are breaking, right? Soon breaking, whatever. So that's constantly happening. That's something they're always working on. We have a systems engineer position, and then we have other what are called network admins, and that they each have a school, right, that they are assigned to manage the networks within that school and how they interact with how they interact with the main hub, which I believe is the middle school. So I think and so what you're having is you have to have each school has its own person. It's like, that, can you do it without that? Sure, but you're going to burn people out too at that point. So.
Did you take a look at those positions as you were doing this?
Yes.
You
Yes.
did?
Yes.
So,
Okay, and you came up with a conclusion that,
We've already eliminated a position from that.
There's already one.
okay, but what about the rest though? So you have looked at the rest and said that there's nothing else there?
So as Melinda said, there are some within the technology leases that we looked at.
For instance, if we don't replace any of the Chromebooks the way we lease them, and I don't know all the specifics to that exactly, we could reduce probably about $90,000 on that, but that will leave holes because a lot of the devices that are currently in play right now are, causing some problems.
We felt
But-
it was no different sort of than the occupational therapist. We may end up cutting more to pay more. We're not sure on that.
So
Can I
this
ask-
is the
can I
actual
ask-
laptop, not the person?
Correct.
Yes,
Like
these
you
are-
said,
It's hardware.
Yes.
Okay.
What is the cost of, say, one tech?
So the computer.
You said
tech-
there were 4 tech.
Right, 4 techs, about 45,000, 46,000. Sorry, 47, because that was last year, 47.
Can I ask a question?
got it.
Wait a minute. Tom.
I gotta get back to something real quick, guys. So, are we saying that we want to keep a nurse secretary at the high school, a nurse secretary at the middle school? We want to keep two student service secretaries, and Anthony has one as well. So that's 4 people for student services. And we want to keep those and get rid of the athletic director. Is that what we want to get? We want to keep these people. We have 6 counselors as well. We want to get rid of 1 and keep 6. We have 6. We have 2 secretaries. We have 2 secretaries. And Anthony, really? Are we really? Really?
Do you know what those people do all day?
I know that there's more of them than 1. I know that for sure. There's more than we have 1 athletic director. We have 6 counselors.
So can I go back to?
So we want to get rid of these. We want to get rid of 1 athletic director over all these. I don't get that. I don't understand that.
That's why we're having a conversation.
Okay. I want to just make sure I throw that out there because
You have.
these are positions where there's a lot of them, and we have 1 athletic director.
Michelle.
It doesn't make sense.
Michelle.
I wanted to go back to the tech and potentially like the Chromebooks. I know that I've been in schools where students have one-to-one devices, or like in my school currently, we have like computer carts for each classroom. Would there be any cost savings to not having students have one-to-one devices versus like having a cart instead?
That would be kind of the plan if we did not do the lease next year of the new Chromebooks. It would be carts in the primary classrooms, I believe, and I don't want to speak, this is really Jen's area, but.
Early primary.
What?
Early primary.
Early primary, right. So that's how we would be able to squeak by on that, and she puts it as an estimated savings of about $90,000.
To have carts in the primary grades versus having one-to-one.
Carts that just stay in the classroom.
I am in support of that because obviously there was a push for technology at some point. There's now a push back against technology at too young of an age. And if that's a cost savings there, I mean, that's something that I'd like to throw back into the equation. Did anyone get the numbers for hiring that OT person, how much we save? Is that something we can figure out, or that's not something we can figure out? Like, I just want to know if we hire that person, what the cost savings is. I know nobody wants to hear about hiring new people, but if it's going to save somebody else, then I certainly want to know those numbers.
It's between $50,000 and $75,000
Of savings.
Yes.
So you hire the person at $75,000, but you get an additional $50,000 to $75,000 to put towards something else.
That is correct.
Assume 50 because they gotta have.
If they accept
Yeah,
benefits
benefits
and
and
so
stuff.
forth, but yes, that's correct.
But that's a one-time fix though. What about the next budget cycle, and next, if you don't have money for that to sustain that?
Well, that's a
position?
continued savings if you're not contracting out for those services.
We save 50 grand a year, every year, unless we spend it somewhere else.
So by hiring the OT, we save, let's call it 50,000 to be on the safe side. By switching back to carts in the lower primary grades, we save another potentially $90,000.
But the more important part of that 90,000, I believe, is the not, you know, how at certain junctures, we trade in the old Chromebooks and we get new ones, the old laptops, that will not occur. That is to just stay as is.
Do we have a BYOD, bring your own device at one point we looked at a bring your own device policy so that people could bring their own computers, but I
We made a
think
decision not to do that.
it poses significant risk to the security on the
I
network.
think Jen was very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
We could reduce similar to how we're reducing summer hours. There's $12,000 allocated in Jen's budget for summer IT staff and support. Again, we have summer school going on, so we do need assistance with that as well.
Do Chromebooks go home?
Yes.
Why do Chromebooks go home?
So at the upper levels, students are working on Google Docs, their teachers are editing, so there's, you know, back and forth. They do a lot of their writing, their assignments, different formative assessments on there. We would not have them going home in K and 1, am I correct? And there would be laptop carts there. We won't have iReady, so we won't need to have anybody doing any of those modules, so that would kind of offset that piece as well.
I was just thinking if we keep them from going home, one, it's less screen time, and two, it's less opportunity for them to break, because we know that when they're home, they're being dropped and.
The only thing I would say about that, and again, this is not my area of expertise by any means, but I would worry about students not having the opportunity to do a lot of, we have textbooks that are digital now, the students are handing out resources digitally, and I do think we want to make sure that they're prepared for after high school as well, knowing that that's how they would be communicating with their professors too. So I think we just have to be careful not to swing too far the other way.
I was thinking more elementary, sorry. I was thinking more like elementary age, maybe not middle school and high school for sure.
Yes.
But I was thinking more elementary.
But on that same line, I was thinking that we could potentially look at more than just K and 1. Like, I don't know if even 2 and 3 needs to, and I can only speak to my own experience with, again, I'm in a school that is a 3 to 5 school and everybody's using carts. And they still find ways to, you know, if there is a situation of a student who doesn't have a device at home or doesn't have access, then we do have, you know, permission for certain students to take things home in that situation. But many of the students, even in my school, do have access to using those sorts of technologies at home. And personally, I have a 5th grader right now, and I don't think he's opened his Chromebook once at home this year. So I would be for, you know, maybe like, I'm just saying if there's more cost savings to be found by having carts and maybe only having 5th graders take them home, because that's what they're going to be doing in middle school to start to get them ready.
That 90 grand was for what grades of cart?
I believe 2 grades.
I don't know what.
It's
grade,
really
is that
just
first or
not
second?
replacing new Chromebooks is how it's phrased on here, so I think it would just be not getting new ones on a lease this coming year.
Okay.
So Melinda, what happens, so if you don't get on the lease, when's the next time you get to switch it out?
I think she would have the opportunity again the following year.
Okay, so it's just a 1 year deficit? Okay, all right, that's fine.
Because we're always on kind of a rotation, again, this
Yeah.
is not my area with that, but we're always rotating them.
Okay.
Is that cost gonna be higher because then you have 2 cycles of Chromebooks that you have to?
Yeah.
So potentially it's just kicking the can down the road.
Right. I mean, I think that, you know, there's a list of things that I can't get into the details because I don't really know, you know, they're not what I do that tech piece, but, you know, we have a new contract with Frontier, and we can maybe reduce by 25,000 there. So I think if we wanted to make an assumption that we could reduce in technology by about 100,000 or so, Jen could do her work within that in terms of what's needed departmentally, just as an option.
I would much rather kick the can down the road a year and save an AP and save the athletic director if that's possible, and then worry about 2 cycles of Chromebooks next year. And I don't say that lightly because I think it's a bad way to budget and to plan, but we're kind of in a bad time right now. I would much rather do that and see a person's job who's having an impact on our students. So that's just my 2 cents there.
If we were to do that, then we'd be chasing 32,000-ish, give or take.
Could we get the 32,000 out of the occupational therapist position?
Should go into 75 out of it, right? They were getting 75 out of it.
I say 50 because you gotta
Yeah,
account for
yeah, yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think we can make that math.
No, that's keeping that in already. We're keeping that in. If you take this, minus this is 122, for 90, we need 32.
Does that give us enough for the future problem solvers field trip too?
At 50.
50?
50 it does. We need 45 fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We share.
So, following along with the discussion, a lot of, for lack of a better way of saying it, duct tape and bubble gum and where we're pulling from here, but if we take the 90K, which effectively kicks the can down the road for the laptops.
This is full.
Yeah, so the full amount here.
Which also you talked about, the other IT things.
Some additional software pieces.
So it's 148,000.
We can come up with
148,000. You can add back in the OT, but you're taking out the savings, right? So it's 148.5.
Yep.
Just round numbers. 75 for the OT. 75 comes back out because you got savings from the OT.
Yep.
So you got to take out the contracted services. If we take that out of contracted services, that's the number I'm using. 25,000 for the stipend for the AD, because we had a stipend, now we're taking that back out. 147,000 for the salary for the AD, it's 32,000, round numbers again, for the medical for the AD, and that comes out, we'd have to find $5,000, which
Okay.
we can do.
So just to clarify, the AD position stays, the OT position stays, basically, and then the problem solvers trip stays, or it's?
No.
No.
that's-
No.
Okay, that we can.
Because, so there's still, like, there's little,
Because you gotta.
this is,
We're
right,
$5
this is on
grand
the
short.
back, this is on the back of this piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
There's gonna be employer costs for taxes and stuff, but
Yeah.
that's not included, so I'm gonna have to find. It's
Okay.
not a lot of money, it's small change.
Okay, but those positions.
But those
still stay.
positions will be back in the budget.
Okay, good.
And maybe you're right, Mr. Moore can
How-
ask the foundation if
Just-
they can help
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the trip.
How much, or do we spend any money on, not to belittle the point, but how much money do we spend, if any, on field trips other than future
They were
solvers?
zeroed out for the.
These are
They were
zeroed
zeroed
out.
out for the entire budget. That was-
Okay, that's going all
That was a
together.
higher duration, yes.
Okay.
And just to reiterate Mr. Salamini's point, this solution, and Joe, you're always good at saying, hey, remember when we said that last year, is effectively a kicking the can down the road when we're talking about technology replacement. So I want to be very open in that dialogue on that. I think it's a really important thing that we're discussing. I just want to make sure that all the impacting factors the board is aware of for future discussions in other budget years.
I think it gives us a good opportunity, though, to have a conversation about the use of technology at home at the elementary level for next year moving forward. Bring back that paper and pencil a little bit, keep the screens at school. Just fun. So essentially, we would be keeping the athletic director, we keep our occupational therapist position, but we don't get new computers. Is that pretty much what it is?
Pretty much worked out that.
I've had my laptop for 5 years. It works great.
Yeah.
I'll donate a computer.
From a 1960.
Because IBM, you know.
I'm going back to the back.
All right. Let's revisit that then. If those were the positions that were taken on the draft where we do the part removal and associated technologies, we'll be able to save both the AD and what's the other one? I'm sorry.
Occupational therapist.
Oh, okay, right, okay. Right, the occupational therapist position. Randy, how do you feel about that?
I like it. I mean, I'd like to save everything, but I like it.
Joe?
I feel better.
I'd be good with that.
I'm good. Not perfect, but I'm good.
A lot
I'm
more,
okay.
Love it.
a lot more policy.
We're still down 28 people, but I'm in.
I agree. It's
Yeah.
disturbing, but still functional. Michelle?
Yep.
All right, with that, here's something. I have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 budget for capital projects that proposed at a 4.53 increase.
I'll make a motion.
Any
Second.
Discussion? I know we just exhausted it, but I have to ask. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? So moved. May I have a motion to adjourn the May 26, 2026 special meeting of the Board of Education?
I'll make a motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hey, guys, nice job, really. Very difficult decision. Really good job.
Thank you.